Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sith Council. Doing the rewatch today. It's Rogue One. And we have been rewatching these episodes of Star Wars, starting as they were supposed to come out in the timeline. We are up to Rogue One. Excited to talk about this one with Mike Kalinowski and Steph Sawbraw. What we do, obviously, with the rewatch and go over our thoughts or the new things that we picked up, but we also try to relate them to the upcoming shows and how they're going to relate at all. And obviously, this one, more so than any, I think, will play into Andor, if it doesn't, considering Andor's in the freaking movie. But we'll get into all of that more. And before that we get into it, I also wanted to let you guys know, if you didn't know this already, coming up on October 8th and October 9th, Mark Ellis and myself are going to be at the New York Comedy Club. Mark will be there on the 7th as well. You can get tickets at markellis.live. It's the first 20-some-odd minute set that I'm doing in New York in quite a while. So please come check it out. And then October 9th, we're having a massive show. And it's going. And I'm not going to spoil it for everybody. You're going to find out tonight if you watch the pay-per-view between Irwin and McKee who's going to be playing Chance Ellison for the title. So go and check that out. Okay. And even one more thing before we even do that. My first set in Los Angeles, I wasn't even expecting to do this, but my first set in Los Angeles is going to be in September 26th. Day after Mike Kalinowski plays Amaru Moses at the Scum and Villainy Cantina, I'm going to be at Flappers in Burbank. So with Mark Ellis, again, Jamie Costa, Justine Marino, and it's presented by Jake Lewis. So please go and check that out. You can get links in the description here below. Okay, but today is all about Sith Council. Let's do it. Gosh darn it. That's great. You know what? I'm leaving it. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. I'm leaving it just like that. And here we go. Fucking Charles DeStefano's song, for God's sakes.
Gives you focus, makes you stronger.
Welcome back to the Charles DeStefano Sith Council show. Seth Council. Time I do a autocorrect, I get stupid Seth Council. Just might as well do a whole show on all the Seths. Seth Green, Seth Meyers, Seth Rogen. Welcome back, everybody, to the Sith Council. Joining me, as always, is this lovely lady. Look at Steph Sawbraw.
Hello.
For the audio listeners, it's the Darth Sawbraw herself.
Happy to be here. I'm one with the Force. The Force is with me.
A dating master, as we call her. And,
just a Jedi with love.
And then there he is.
Here I am.
The Inner Geekdom champion of the world. Mike Kalinowski, I have a lot of questions for you, man, because there's a lot
for this movie.
Yeah, just like names and stuff.
All right, let's see what I got here.
Because
I'm no level with the Star Wars guys.
Here you go. For 2 points.
All right.
What is the name of the actress who plays Mon Mothma in Rogue One?
It's not the girl. Well, yeah, is it the same actress from Attack of the Clones? I think it's Genevieve O'Reilly.
Yes.
Here's a question for you, because they asked how many appearances Mon Mothma in the Star Wars series. I say 3 because she does appear in Revenge of the Sith. She doesn't speak. But she's in there.
She appears in a deleted scene for sure. I mean, she speaks in a deleted scene.
Yeah, she speaks in a deleted scene, but I think we see her at least once. Like, it's in passing, and she's in there, though.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. That's one of those ones I'm like, oh, here we go with the challenge.
Not sure.
But yeah, Genevieve O'Reilly.
Well, Rogue One. Let's get into this movie.
Let's get into it.
And you guys wouldn't know but we started a little late here today because I was watching the end of this movie, and I started watching it last night. This movie is awesome. It is hands down
always
the best Star Wars movie to come out of the Disney era.
Yeah, I'll agree.
I didn't always feel that way.
Really?
No, I didn't. I always liked it. Yeah. I just never really. It's to me. I think that's it's such a blanket statement to say this feels the most Star Wars. Like, but to who? To me, it feels like the most like Star Wars out of the thing that I fell in love with when I was a kid, right?
Okay.
So, like, for example, Steph and other people fell in love with Star Wars through the prequels, right? Yeah. So to them, Star Wars is very different. So I think it's silly and not fair to say, well, this is the most Star Wars of it all. To me, it is.
To you.
And I also think the reason why I like the Mandalorian the way that I like the Mandalorian, it syncs up into that feel of what I fell in love with. The apology that I'd like to give on this show, doing this right away, is to Michael Giacchino. For years, I have talked about how I've not liked this score. Years.
Yeah.
And I still don't like when Ben Mendelsohn and Krennic shows up to Vader and Mustafar. It's like, It's so dramatic, and it's still jarring to me, and I still don't like it. But the overall score in general, for the amount of time that he had to work on
that with the time, he didn't have any time.
It's really good.
And his Jin's theme is great.
It's really good. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't. And there. I'm going to talk about the things real quick that I don't like, and there's not a lot of it.
Okay.
But the things. Borg Gullet. Borg Gullet, I'm never going to like. It's stupid. There's no reason for it.
You don't like the Borg Gullet, or you don't like Saw Gerrera with the Borg Gullet?
I don't like the Borg Gullet. It's a big stupid octopus running around. Like, for what? It's like, Borg Gullet will know if you're telling the truth. And it's like, but you never see the Borg Gullet ever again. He just kind of flops it. It's like the freaking octopus in Popeye. It's so stupid. I hate that dumb thing. And the other thing that really is dumb is the font that they use in it's like an iMovie font in the beginning when they open up for Rogue One.
I'm super critical of fonts too.
It's so bad.
God, I didn't even notice it now. I didn't even think about it.
Watch it. When you watch it again, the opening, like, it's jarring at first, and it's so clear that we want to get it. Same thing with Solo. We want to get away with the opening scroll, and then they just boom, Rogue One, and it's got this iMovie Rogue One thing. I'm like, well, that's not good. But the opening's great. The opening of the film is phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, so that's really there's not much other than that, considering all of the problems that this movie had on set.
It's kind of like Solo, like in the sense that I want to see, like with Solo, you see the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Trying not to fit, and some fit, but this you don't see it. You know,
I don't
see.
Tony Gilroy came in and just like a surgeon.
So I don't see what. There was no actor was giving two different performances at any time in the show.
Right. So if you didn't know that there were problems, you probably couldn't figure it out.
I would have never known.
Right.
And I think the only thing that I would ever thought was like, oh, the trailers. We saw a lot different things in the trailers.
Right. That's exactly right.
And I will say,
stuff.
I remember there was much more feeling of it being a World War II movie.
You don't think it feels like that at the end? The end is, I mean,
I still remember there was one cast shot of all of them in the hangar.
Yeah.
And it just looked like the Dirty Dozen, it looked like, I was gonna say the Bad Batch, but that's inspired by the Dirty Dozen. It looked like the Dirty Dozen, like I'm trying
to from stuff that you got in the trailer. You're saying.
Yeah.
Let me. You know.
But it worked. This is one of my favorite Star Wars films, hands down. So it doesn't bother me. But it was
when Steph and when you guys came in, I said that it just feels like a straight up war film. The end of it, the music, the tone, like the emotion. You care about these characters so much.
Yeah.
I care. Like when someone crapped out, I cared, and still after knowing what was going to happen to them, I cared.
Yeah.
So. I loved. This is perhaps my favorite ensemble cast in terms of the number of cast members, and also just shout out to the diversity that's not forced at all, and it makes so much sense, and it only benefits the film. But I really think I get what you mean by the most Star Wars type of movie for me, because it encapsulated war and like the gray area between, you know, the rebels doing things that aren't right, but that they kind of felt like they had to do, and then with the Empire. And then I feel like the action sequences were from start to finish so good. Like there was not a moment of boredom. The only thing with like the octopus tentacles, I feel like we could have spent more time on Riz Ahmed's character. That was the most dramatic acting in Star Wars. I think Saw Gerrera's character.
You know what's funny? Speaking of what we have talked about and how we relate to this movie to any of the shows that we watched, and even video games at this point, because watching this time around and knowing that there's been more with Saw Gerrera, because at the time in 2016 when this came out, the most reference I had with Saw Gerrera was the Clone Wars, right? So, and since then he's had episodes in Rebels. There's a great arc in the new Fallen Order that came out that he pops up.
Big character now.
Yeah, and he's a big character, and there's so much. You see the decay of his mind throughout. Leading up to Rogue One and what he's been through, and the kind of
with his sister and everything.
There's just so much pain. They even say it that he was all for the rebellion, and then he just went super rogue. I guess pun intended there, but like it just was. Watching that scene, so knowing the lunacy, because even the beginning, there's stuff that in the trailer that they shot more with Saw.
Right. Well, his wig and everything, he had a different look.
Yeah, he had a much different look. So when they get to the point when he's older and he finds Jim, because I thought it was, are you here to kill me.
Yeah.
And it's like all of that. It actually works for me. I didn't mind how over the top
didn't bother me
because he's a lunatic.
Yeah, it didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me. It was because it was just very dramatic. That's
Yes.
what you see when you look at
Over
it.
the top.
But you understand, like, again, that's another gray area of war.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have
Right.
people that go into
Yes.
those sectors of extremism, so that matches in that sense. But the breathing thing kind of like took me out for a second. But Saw Gerrera was supposed to be, I think he was the first from animated to live action adapted character.
So when I remember is that they had a character in Rogue One that was
Originally?
Yeah, whatever the character was. I can't remember if it had a name or whatever it was, but they talked to Pablo Hidalgo, who was like, we have a character that's similar like this that's already appeared, and it could be Saw Gerrera. So they did the research on it. They said, yeah, this makes sense. Let's put Saw Gerrera in there, and then they had this and that I remember being very excited, and I think that it got a lot of the fan base excited that they were doing this, because remember, this is pre Last Jedi, right? So at the time the Star Wars community was still pretty locked in together in unison. There weren't two sides.
Everyone was pretty happy with Force Awakens.
Yeah, I love Force Awakens.
Yeah, and even if the people who didn't, it wasn't like that thing of like, like I always equate. To me, when people talk about The Last Jedi, it's like there's right-wing politics and left-wing politics. What side are you on? That's what it feels like with Last Jedi.
Yeah, it's serious.
In Force Awakens was like I either like it, I don't like it. Like normal movie
I think the
stuff.
biggest criticism in Force Awakens was it's too much like the original.
That's right. I mean that was
fair point.
Absolutely, and there was a lot of that. But this movie, I thought. Then it was the second movie in the Disney era, and it was something that people were very excited about, because it was like, what happened? How did they get the Death Star plans? Because we always, as kids, we saw that in the opening crawl. It was the Rebel spies have gotten the Death Star plans, and it's like, okay, well, how did that happen? We know they're not going to make it out, but the question is, what is their journey like on the way? And I thought the way that they did it, and what I will reference is one of the best, I think, canon books to come out in that time was James Luceno's Catalyst, which is all about Galen Erso and Krennic coming up through this time at Coruscant. You do see Coruscant like briefly in this in like a flashback. But it means a lot more after you read this book, when that opening scene and knowing everything that both Krennic and Erso, and it's a canon book, that they've gone through.
Yeah.
And Lyra has never liked Krennic, and they've always had this beef. And the fact, it's a great line, or delivery, I should say, by Ben Mendelsohn, when in the beginning of that opening scene, when he's just like, because Erso tells him that Lyra is dead, and he's like, oh no, he doesn't buy it at all.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, it's tragic. And then she shows up, and he's just like, oh look, here's Lyra back from the dead, like just because he knew it. He's like, come on, dude. He's like, let's get on the thing, let's go. And he's cold, all about power, all about like the back and forth between him and Tarkin is great. Let me ask you, Steph, when you're looking at Tarkin now, because this is 2016, and when Tarkin came out, still, for those people that it was pretty crazy to see Peter Cushing kind of back on screen, it reminded me of the conversation we had with like Luke in The Mandalorian, is that today they don't use that kind of, they're going to use deepfake, and it's going to look 1,000 times better.
1,000 times better. I love these. I've been watching with my friend Haley, who's never seen Star Wars movies, so I've been like looking to her to see if she like picks out things. And like 2 minutes into the Tarkin scene, she goes, he kind of looks fake. And I was like, I was waiting to see if you noticed. I love the first opening shot with him when it's just his reflection. That is sick. And I kind of wish they did that and cut around his face a little bit, because when we got the straight face shot of him multiple times, we got so much Tarkin, which is really cool in hindsight. But that was one of my small problems. I didn't love it.
Yeah. Mike?
Tarkin never worked for me.
Yeah.
Like, and I admit,
the character, or just the fact that the look?
The look.
Yeah.
It just didn't. I would have rather them use the actor from Revenge of the Sith that they used.
Sure.
And just make-upped him.
I
know, like, you just got to go into this going, Cushing's dead. He ain't going to be in this. How are we going to do that? If you're going to use that character, we've got to find a way to do it.
They did it for Mon Mothma, right? Because Mon Mothma, they
used different actress.
Right.
Different. Right. So, and granted, it's a smaller character. You're not getting those close-ups. And Peter Cushing has such a distinct face. His jaws, hairline, it's so distinct.
I don't think that I have a problem with any of that, or what you guys are saying. But I don't mind I don't mind what they did.
No, I mean,
because
you see why they had to do it.
Yes,
so
because I think it's because what it did is it's the evolution of eventually what we're getting and all this deepfake stuff and all that. And I know some people have problems with deepfaking it, but I don't. And I actually, when you look at the guy that they hired to at Lucasfilm that was doing all these deepfakes, he did a Tarkin one. He did a Tarkin one. He did a Luke one. Yeah. And it's significantly better than what they did in the movies, right? And I think that that's the same thing that we're gonna eventually start to see, and you're gonna compare it, but this was 2016.
Yeah,
you look.
And they're probably working in 2015 . So
yeah, man.
So you think
6 years ago,
Cassian Andor series, if we get Tarkin, it would be with the new deepfake guy.
They hired that guy for a reason. They hired him for a reason.
He's probably got a whole department under him now.
That's what I mean. So whether or not Tarkin's going to be in it, I have no idea. But the fact is, this is why you bring this guy on to do more things.
Knew what he was doing.
And when you look at that gallery series and they talk about the Luke stuff, they talk about how there's 3 different things that they could have used, and they went away from deepfake. But I think they realized that deepfake is actually the better thing. And I think if you bring Tarkin in down the line, if you're going to do that, and you can deepfake it, then you should put Stephen Stanton in, because Stephen Stanton, who does Radis in this movie, he did Tarkin, he did Obi-Wan.
He's a voice actor.
He's a voice actor, but he's done, and he did Tarkin in the Clone Wars and Rebels. He's the voice of it. And he sounds just like Peter Cushing. Okay. So if you put him, and he's a great actor in general. Yeah. So if you put him in the role and then put the deepfake on him, that would be something.
Yeah.
That would be something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some Andy Serkis cuts.
That type of stuff. Sorry. So getting back into the movie itself, I mean, that opening scene and not knowing Matt Mickelson is so good in this role.
So good.
He's really, really good in this role. And it's different because a lot of times he plays like a creep or like a villain or something, and
even when he's playing the villain, he's still charming as hell. Like,
he is
Lashif.
He is, but this character's a good guy.
Right. And you buy it.
Yeah.
You never watch him like, I don't think I'll ever see Mendelsohn in a good guy role.
Right.
Like, he plays the same roles that Mickelson plays a lot of times as bad guys.
Right.
But Mickelson, there's not an innocence. There's a humanity to him that you believe is a good guy. I'll never believe Ben Mendelsohn is a good guy. Yeah. And that's not against him. That's how good he is as an actor. He's got that menace. There's just always something, like, even when he's trying to do this, like, oh, I'm so sorry she's gone. Like, he's like,
doesn't care.
No, he's
a phenomenal actor, and
that's why he's so good in these roles.
And that's what they were doing in general by getting this type of talent. And then I said to Steph before when we started shooting was that Felicity Jones is so good in this role. She's underrated as a character. Like Jyn Erso, the character of Jyn Erso, and what she has to go through, losing both her parents, seeing her mother murdered in front of her, and then she's basically sent off with Saw. He dumps her down the line, and then she's on her own. And then she gets picked up. K2SO might be my favorite droid of all.
He's so good.
I mean, sorry R2, sorry C3PO. Yeah. I know, I get it. They're legends. I love them.
But R2 and 3PO over time have, because they're constantly being put in everything, it's losing who they were. Like, watching them pop up in the new 3 films, I'm like, why are they even here? Like, they don't show up for any reason.
They don't do anything in the new trilogy. Yeah,
and I get how beloved they are. Yeah, but it's weird because droids come. Like, I remember when BB-8 came out. Mm-hmm. That was the thing. Like, you wouldn't. I couldn't get the toys fast enough, and now no one talks about BB-8. There's no longevity to him. He didn't stick with the thing. Yeah, right. But K2 does stick for some reason. Like, more so than like L7 or L3.
I loved L3, but
L7. L3.
You better figure that out.
I know. L779?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, L779.
K2.
Oh, no.
What I liked about K2 is that he was the only comedic part of the movie, basically, and it really worked. Like, the movie was serious, and it should have been. Right. I don't think that this was one where they should have taken the Guardians of the Galaxy type comedy too far, but I think K2SO provided such good comedic relief, and like led the story. He was kind of like the linchpin of the movie in some ways.
He did, and the fact that this repurposed like droid, the Imperial droid, having this personality and loyalty to Cassian, and I just thought it was such a great.
What is L3?
And how he viewed Jyn.
Yes, because even in the beginning, when I remember I watched this movie with my daughter not too long ago, and it was the part that she really laughed at was in that beginning when he rescues her, and they're there to rescue her. She's kicking the crap out of everybody. She runs out. He clotheslines her. He goes, "Congratulations, you've been rescued." After he slams her into the floor, and my daughter started cracking up. So it was a riot, because he has no really loyalty to anybody but Cassian.
Yeah.
You know, he'll do the job that's supposed to be. And he's like, I'm. What's the one line right before they go to Scarif? And he says, he's like, I will be there for you too, Jin, because Cassian says I have to.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
right.
And then the part after Jin is just you see how cool this character is, and she takes out like 50 men, and then she takes out a droid like him, and then he's right behind her, and he's like, did you know that wasn't me?
Right. All of that. I mean, like, it just. So it plays. The movie just plays throughout from the start. And like I said, minus the Boar Gullet and the font and a couple things, there's really not a lot of stuff. I'm watching it, and I was just locked in again watching it because I cared. And I don't know if you guys know this, and again, I'm not sure how much of it is fact, how much it is rumor. Where I heard it from, I trust it. Originally, what they said was, that I didn't shoot this, but I think that it was the plan. Vader was supposed to kill all of them. Vader was supposed to kill Jin. Vader was Vader was supposed to kill everybody.
Okay.
And from what I heard, how true it is, I don't know. But he was supposed to kill everybody. As badass as it would have been, I think it diminishes the characters and their purpose.
You know, it's funny because it's to me that would have been, and it's kind of I have a little bit of an issue in the MCU where everything has to relate to Tony Stark.
Right.
It's like everyone's origins, downfalls have to relate to him. Like Vader and Jin, they never have to meet. There's no reason, and I think it makes it. It's just this group of rebels got these plans, and they were the ones that did it. Like not everything has to tie to Vader. He doesn't have to be involved and have a hand in everyone's downfall.
Right.
It's just, hey, he's a soldier for the Empire. He's their guy.
Right.
Yeah, it would have.
But there's other ones out there.
Deaths.
Yeah, I think it works stronger.
Yeah.
And it would have I don't think we would have had the same conversation that this is some of the best Vader stuff we've ever gotten in the two main scenes specifically that I'm thinking about that I loved so much with Vader. If he had done that, because it just wouldn't have had as much power and impact. And my favorite part about the movie is that it's ordinary people choosing to do extraordinary things. And if they died like that, as opposed to all dividing and conquering and dying in their own way,
and they never get to see each other, really.
Because they all had honorable deaths.
And what I love too, speaking of the cast, with Cassian and Diego Luna, I love the fact that he's not your traditional kind of heroic leading man.
He's that opening scene. He's
kind of like
not
even like the way he's written, just the way the actor was cast. Like he's a kind of a smaller statue guy.
Right.
Like he's not this physical like leading man look, and I love that. Yeah. They went opposite casting. Like this is a guy you're not going to think is the hero. He's not, and he has so much. Love that. He's got
so much pain. Yeah. And I think that's what's going to transfer in. If we just get into it now, what's going to transfer into this Andor series, right? Like. Been very vocal about it. I still feel the same way. It's not the series that I'm looking forward to the most. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to be very interested in it. Doesn't mean it can be a WandaVision for me to where I'm like, okay, let's see what happens, and I wind up loving it.
Yeah.
And Steph and I have also been talking about what we'd like to see. If let me see the stuff with the start of the rebellion, but let me see the other side and show me a lot of the Empire.
Yeah.
And it might turn out to be one of my favorite shows. But inside of the books, and I don't remember which book it was, but Cassian's parents were separatists. And he even says it. He's been in this fight since
since he was 6.
That's the question.
Since he was 6.
So since he was 6 years old.
Oh, I got that one down.
Well, that puts him. If you look at, and that puts him during the Clone Wars would still be going on at that point. So he's been in the fight since he was 6 as a separatist. And
we don't ever find out how old he's in this. Is he? I think mid-20s probably.
If you're gonna say mid-20s, and you look at when it happened, it was 15 years since Jin saw her dad when all that went down, and that was only a few years after Revenge of the Sith.
And Jin's like 21, I think someone said.
Something like that. Yeah. But so that's just a few years after Revenge of the Sith, and right where after the Empire started. So then if you jump back to, let's say he's however many years it is, 10 more years before then, he's fighting in the Clone, or his parents are fighting in the Clone Wars, maybe as separatists.
And they were separatists.
So, now, are they going to pull a thing in this series like they did in The Mandalorian, where they show some flashback scenes and they show
his family?
Well, they show his family fighting in the war, because that's one of my favorite stuff in The Mandalorian.
I'm trying to think. One of the comics, I think the comics did Poe's parents.
Yes,
I don't think they did. I don't think they did Diego.
No.
They did Poe's, because Poe's parents. They knew Luke and the Force tree and all that stuff too. Yeah, absolutely. But this, how it's going to play in, and how the pain that he suffers, what happened to his parents overall. And I don't know if he's been covered in the book so much. I know that he was, maybe it's a Rogue One book. Maybe that's where they found out he was a separatist. But how he gets involved and how much time, because it's very similar to this movie, right? We know that he is not, that he's going to make it out of this series. We know that because he ultimately gets to Rogue One. We know from what they said, it's not going to start with him knowing K2SO.
Okay, so it probably could be them finding each other, which would be great.
Because Alan Tudyk is
not in the first season. They think.
I think that's yours. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
well, they announced him at D23. I think prematurely, to be honest with you, but they announced him at D23, and then he made an announcement that he's not in the first season or whatever, but he'll be in it. In general.
So then they know they're getting a second season.
I was just talking about The Sopranos the other day on Rotten Tomatoes, and when that show came out, it was very different how HBO would. It worked like a network.
Yeah,
you did a pilot, and you'd have to get it approved. Now with streaming, it's like, okay, we're going to do season 1. We're going to see how it does. And betting odds that because of the way that Star Wars series are going so far and the ratings that are so far, that it's safe to try to do 2 seasons of this show.
Like if Bad Batch is going to get a second season, and I feel like they banked on.
So interesting.
This is more expensive though.
It's so interesting to think that, because I know, and I hate to keep saying the Marvel Star Wars comparisons, but again, now they're in the same house, so it's easy. Yeah. Like they know, like
especially
we
now
don't
they have TV shows also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and the movies in the universe and stuff, but that it seems like all it's all still geared towards one central thing. Where Star Wars, we're not gearing towards some big event with all these different things. Right. So they're just the different pockets and corners of the world, which I love.
We are and we aren't, right?
I know.
Because it's like, because they're big events that have already happened.
Big events. We're going almost reverse MCU.
Right. I mean, even this movie, right? Like there's the big event of the fact, like even you see the Death Star in motion here twice, but not to its full capacity.
No.
Right. And it's still devastating.
Yeah.
What it does to Jeddah, what it does to Scarif.
Yeah.
The fact, I think the irony that Krennic is so involved in trying to get, and then it winds up it being the thing that kills him.
I feel like the laser hit him dead on. But I think this speaking of like talking about the whole expanding the galaxy, I think Rogue One did maybe the best job of doing that. Like I read some people had criticism of them going planet to planet, showing what planet we're on, like with the titles.
Really?
I love that.
I enjoy that.
I really feel like they made you know how big the galaxy is.
I love that you brought that up, because I think it's one of the things, it's the point that we've made on this show. The tough thing to do, and to give the new trilogy some slack, it's hard to please everyone when you have characters that have been in the past and not playing into people's expectations of what Luke and Han and everybody's going to do, right? That's a problem. That's a problem that you're going to face when you're making those movies. The Patty Jenkins movie we've talked about, she's going in with a clean slate, right? Mandalorian went in with a clean slate, and yes, you had Luke come in and some other characters, Boba Fett come in, but they're part of this overall story of this brand new character that we're introduced to, and
with
that's
new
why
mythology.
That show works. That's why this movie works. Like, even though it's all about the Death Star, and we see Mon Mothma, and we see Organa, and we see this stuff, it's these new characters inside of it's very similar to what they do in Mandalorian. And I think it's why, as I was watching it again, it becomes one of my favorite Star Wars movies as I watch it more and more.
And it's funny, when this just hit me when I was thinking about it. A lot of the problems or people think about, or I would have thought it was like, well, we never hear about these characters again. It kind of sucks for telling the story. But then you see this, like, they're nobodies in the grand scheme of Star Wars. They were just foot soldiers, spies doing something like they were never these grand heroes of the rebellion. Like Jin was the one that got the Death Star. They were just,
they don't even know who got it.
Yeah, and at one point they're like, who's there? Rogue One?
Rogue One.
Okay, we'll get the shield down for you.
It's a team.
I love that. Like, they're the nobodies. And I love that.
And you might hear about them down the line in some Rebel show or something. But the movies that we've seen, I mean, Rey didn't even know who Luke was. She knew who he was, but heard like rumors and stuff. That shows you how big the galaxy is in general. Yeah. Like, some people are like, that's stupid. It doesn't make sense. The galaxy's huge, and they don't know mythological figures. Like, I always think of like Braveheart. Like when William Wallace was doing what he's doing, that's just in one country or in Europe. But like, things are going around about William Wallace and the rumors. Here he's like 8 feet tall. I hear he does this. I hear he does that. And it's like these things that are happening, and it's the same type of mythology, right? So it's like for the rebels that did that, yeah, they're part of the cause, and it was Rogue One that did it, and it started it off, and maybe inside of the rebellion, if they did a show, then of course they'd be honored. But you're not going to hear about it all over the,
No, I think that's great.
Yeah, me too. There's so much inside of this, and I think that the performances are really, really good. I think that when they go to Jeddah, and I would like to see Jeddah in another movie.
Really?
Yeah, beforehand, because. Well, they say, and I don't know if it's Tarkin or whoever says it, or maybe even it's to say the last traces of the Jedi are finally there.
Because the Kyber crystals and stuff.
Yeah, they're wiped off. It's like, I don't even care if it's like a throwaway episode on Bad Batch.
Okay.
You just
want to go back.
Well, at that point, at that point you could have Jeddah, but like let's just see a little bit of Jeddah, and how much of Jeddah, like the last remnants, and because there's those statues of the Jedi on side.
Yeah.
And look, maybe you know where you could see Jeddah in the Acolyte.
Oh yeah,
okay,
that's true.
Because
it's a great planet they created that we want to see more of.
It could be flourishing because look at certain neighborhoods that when you were growing up, the two reverses. One, a really bad neighborhood when you were growing up that had people come in with some money, change it up, and it's like a great neighborhood.
Yeah.
Flip side, there was a really good neighborhood at one point, and it turned into a bad neighborhood. That's what Jeddah could be. Jeddah could be this flourishing planet with all Jedi during the High Republic times. And we can see it during that.
I could see that.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, and see that. And see, was that statue? There was a statue that crumbled on the floor, right?
Yeah.
Or was it a monument that was already on the floor?
I think there was. I remember there's one statue, but I think there was one just laying there, just
That's
toppled over.
That's what I meant. The toppled over one. That would be like, how fun would that be? You don't bring a lot of attention to it. It's just kind of whenever the show is, and you just see it. It's standing, it's upright, and it's holding. You're like, oh wow, that's because you know what's going to happen to that planet in 200, 300 years from now. So
oh yeah, that's true, especially with a little call to action in that sense. But I loved, though, I have to talk about Chirrut and Baze.
Oh, they're great.
They're just like the bromance, one of my favorite friendships ever portrayed in Star Wars. And in such a quick amount of time, I think I would have wanted more of them or more of Riz Ahmed's character instead of the octopus tentacles. But they were such a good beating heart of the movie and really connected the characters between Diego and Jyn. Really, Cassian and Jyn really well.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what I'm so happy about? I remember watching that movie thinking, oh man, are they going to have Baze like turn on them and be working for the Empire? I'm like, it just seems like that's like one of those
But you
things.
thought, okay.
I just hoped it didn't happen.
Didn't go that
because it seems like that's always what happens. It always like,
Yeah.
there's always the group, and then there's always one person that
deserts
turns
it,
on them. And it's like, let's not do that again. And they didn't.
No.
And I was like, that's great. And I think that, you know, obviously a lot of people talk about how Gareth Edwards, well, yeah, he had help with Tony Gilroy. He still did a lot, and he gets credit for this, and he should, because
I so want to know.
I want to know so much.
Like, well, the only I backtrack when I said like it all blends. There's the one thing that doesn't. It's the scene where they're all around the table at Yavin, and one guy in the background's like, "What is she proposing?" Like they were like, "We need to add something to this is the exposition part."
Yeah.
So that one guy, you're like, all right, something. This is the scene. Something was different here.
Yeah,
that's true.
I did. Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say anything.
I did like that. I did like that scene though in general, and I think that Mon Mothma is in such and if you read Claudia Gray's novel Bloodline,
I love that.
Like just where she is in general. Mon Mothma is a good person.
Yeah,
but she's always caught in the politics of it all, and she's caught in the politics of it all in this.
Yeah,
it's like if they have this weapon that you're talking about, and we're going in, that's the end of it. It's like it's over. Right. And you could be leading us in there because you're this dude's daughter. You say that
you could be planted.
That's what you say, but we just found you in a jail cell about 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So why are we trusting you? And then it's like you got to have this hope of it and this belief of it, and it's a great arc for me of what Jyn has to go through because Jyn is very angry, as she deservedly so, starting this movie. She doesn't know anything about why her dad took off, why he didn't come back, why these things. She doesn't know. He's an Imperial. She doesn't know. She was a kid. And hearing all these things and being with Saw and having a father figure at least in Saw, and then he dumps her. So she's angry. And then your world is just changed upside down when you find out, well, no, my dad was a good guy. And he's actually alive. He's alive, and he's trying to help. It's my favorite scene. It affected me in the theater. It affected me again watching it. It's my favorite scene in the entire film when she sees the hologram and she's listening to the message, and it's like it's this attachment. It's like there's no one else in that room. Saw's not in that room. No one's in that room. It's just her in that hologram because it's her first attachment to her father in 15 years. Yeah. And it's such a not talked about moment when that hologram goes off.
Yes.
And she falls to her knees. She doesn't say anything. You just know she's just like, no, don't go.
Yeah.
This is all I have of you. Don't go. And it's such a real moment when when everything's falling around her, she doesn't think to grab it. I've been many times I've left my house and forgot my keys.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's this, and she's like, everything happened so fast. And then he's like, Cassian's like, convenient.
Yeah.
Right? But like, cause he goes through a thing. Like his arc switches when they're on, what planet it is?
Edu.
When
he goes to kill her.
When he goes to kill him. Yeah. When he's up there and he's
Edu.
Because I think that it's set up so well in that opening scene when he kills the dude.
Tudyk.
When he kills Tudyk. That's like this guy does what's asked of him.
Yes.
And he doesn't have a heart about it because he has to get, I shouldn't say he doesn't have a heart about it. He's conscious about it.
He's the bigger picture.
He
the
gets the job done.
comparison of him being like a stormtrooper too. Like he's just following orders.
And when Jin says as much to him.
Yeah.
And so when that happens in that switch, when he decides not to do it, and there's another moment by the great Diego Luna that shows up when after he doesn't kill him and then he sees Mickelson slap him.
Yeah.
In his eyes, he doesn't say it. He knows it's like, I was right not to kill this guy.
Yeah.
He's like, he's on our side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this, you see it washed over his face.
It's almost relief.
Big relief because he's like, oh, wait. Okay, so she's telling the truth now. And then and it makes much more of an impact when she goes up on the deck.
Yeah.
And he's like, call him off. Another thing, talking about that thing, how I was happy that Baze didn't turn. I was also happy that who's the guy that gives him the order to kill
Draven?
So when Draven gives him the order, Moses, you better look out. When he gives him the order to, he said, stand down, Jin's on there.
Yeah.
Draven could have been that douchey guy who's like, no, we're coming in anyway. Right.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He said, call him off. They're like, they're ready in formation. They're going to attack. So all of that.
But what I loved about that whole thing was that with her father is that it pointed out a moment of where they had to rely on trust, and in a way that I haven't seen depicted in Star Wars, where all of them had to kind of just trust and like use the Force in a sense to know whether someone's intentions were good or not. And I thought that was really, really well done.
Yeah, and not even it's off topic for a second, but with Star Wars, with this film, another thing I love about it was they had a tough time production-wise, designer, because it fits a specific era of Star Wars, and it had to mesh with a 70s made Star Wars film. And when like Merrick showed up with that mustache, but still didn't look like a 70s guy, like everything about the pilots, the design, it fit. You go, okay, that would take place right after 1977.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, the film was a little more crisper, a little digital, but it just fits.
It just works.
Right after
the
New
music,
Hope, or right with
that,
it. It's like,
and they use a lot of
these actors.
The actors.
Oh, when they had the Gold Squadron or Red Leader coming in, it's like, oh, that's them. That was awesome.
And when they because what's Luke's call sign is
He's Red 5.
Red 5. Yeah. So Red Leader dies.
Because doesn't Red 5 dies in
yeah
so
he opens up the spot,
but like Red Leader was in it. Red Leader,
right? So when they say Red 5 going, and then Red 5 is I mean, there's so many, they lost so many people in this battle, right? And I know that there's some discrepancies in the timeline of how it all worked at the very end when Vader comes in and everything too. It's just like I that's the type of stuff I kind of push it to
that
the side.
Doesn't even bother me in the least.
It doesn't bother me either. But like that scene, that when Vader is at his best, it's a horror film. And I remember being in the theater watching that movie when it came out. Obviously, people lost their minds when Vader shows up, but it's terrifying. And then the rebels are playing hot potato with the thing, and they're running through, and they're like, just take, like we're trying to get out.
That, like the alarm, the
everything,
like, and it just brings you focused right into the where this is going. And you're like, oh, are they going there?
And when they do, and he shows up, and it's like, okay, he's coming, and show him back on that chase. It's just such that is, and I guess it's fair because it's Vader, right? But it is easily the most talked about scene in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And because, it's like, it's
unfairly so, I think.
I think yes and no, right? Because obviously you're going to talk about it because Vader shows up, and it's like, the way I compare it is Yoda battling Count Dooku. right? And and the reason people talk about it is because it's Yoda bouncing around off the walls with a lightsaber. But in my mind, as we've talked about, that moment wasn't necessarily earned because it was just let's put a lightsaber in Yoda's hand. He's going to go nuts.
Right.
This moment to me with Vader was earned.
Right.
Because it was they just went through all of this for 2 hours.
Yeah.
We just watched them go through this. Their characters just died that we loved.
Yeah.
And Vader is 2 seconds away from ruining all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's why it fit for me.
And for me, what it does about this film, and it really hits home New Hope in the sense that Lucas took a film and said, you know what? I'm not telling you how this happens. We're getting you right in the middle of this. We're not. If Star Wars was made today, whatever, not Lucas if he made it by himself, but like you could see the studios going, that's saved for the sequel. How do they get to this point? So let's find out the plans, and this will be the first film. Like he took a shot with that, and we just went along with it.
That's why he did it by
himself. So many films are nowadays like, well, we're going to get to that to the sequels, and then no one shows up for the first film. We don't get it. Like I love that, and who knows if he would have ever told this story himself. But
it was just like that perfect thing that just happened, right? And that's why it's like,
and his kids watching it, that was the great thing about it. It's like, well, where did they come from? We didn't go, well, they didn't tell us it. It's why we need to know. It's like, no, in our own heads, we're like, but what happened before this moment?
Started in the middle of the war.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it was pitched. I think John Knoll, no, I don't remember. I think so, who pitched this idea of
for Rogue One.
Gotcha. And it was basically, I got the movie. It's the rebels that found the plans for the Death Star. Yeah. It's a great pitch.
It is.
That's a simple pitch.
It's a simple pitch, and it's just it's the same thing. Like, hey, I got a movie or I got a TV show. What is it? It's about a bounty hunter that gets that has a job, has no heart, and then he gets Yoda's species. One of Yoda's species and got to save the kid. It's just that's great.
And it's what's so funny about this film, and then 2 years later with Solo, it's like, and when we talked last episode where Solo felt very cold to me. I didn't feel like like in this.
Didn't care as much.
There was just, and I don't know if it was the attention to detail. It's like when they're in Yavin, it's the guy up in the bucket with the radar.
Yeah.
Like it instantly brings this like warmth back, like that and there was none of that in Solo. And I don't know if that was a conscious choice.
It's what we talked about in Solo is that there's times in Solo and in the new trilogy where it feels like a different sci-fi movie with new aliens and everything too, and the way they set things up. And in this, it feels like, oh, I've lived in this. I've lived here before.
Yeah.
But it was all new.
It's
all new.
100%. These are new. That's why I love The Mandalorian. Mandalorian to me, this is the same thing. It's like there are new characters that pop in. There's new species and stuff that come up, but it all feels like it fits. Right. The Borg gullet was the only thing that feels like it felt like something.
It felt like a Madam Lady Proxima.
Lady Proxima was so much.
But it felt like we need a globulous alien like a Jabba in this
Proxima,
to do.
Though, speaking of Proxima, look at the difference in the impact when Bodhi gets to Jeddah and he is desperate to get this message out, and he what's his name? Tony Two Tubes, whatever the guy's name is.
Oh, Tony Two. That guy I don't know, but I know you're talking about.
But
Tony Two Tubes.
But Tony Two Tubes is like, but I think his name is Two Tubes. But when he shows up, and they're all talking in alien subtitles. It's all subtitled, and it's so much more effective. And you're like, if that guy would have been like, "Hey, what are you doing here, Bodhi?"
Bodhi, we got the reward for you coming out. Saw's gonna see you.
Oh, Saw's gonna know that you're up, and that has happened in the prequels. That has happened
because they're going to go. It's like, all right, this guy's kind of a gangster. We need like a gangstery voice. And then when actors come is like, hey, all right, we're going to take you to Saw. And you got to pay, man. You got to pay.
What's more intimidating? Hey, I'll take you to Saw right now. Or I'm fucked up.
Way more.
And it's in that tone, and you're like, what? You're like, it was so effective watching that, and I'm just like, Yoda works.
Yeah,
there are certain ones that work, and they take shots.
Can you imagine if Jabba talked normal?
It would have been terrible.
They're awful.
Can you imagine?
No.
It would have been terrible.
No.
Look at what happened in the Clone Wars movie. In the Clone, was it in the Clone Wars movie or Clone Wars? I don't remember. Yeah, Clone Wars movie. It was Zero with.
Zero.
Is it whatever?
It's Kevin Michael Richardson.
I don't remember.
Right?
There's one hut that talks with like a New Orleans accent.
Yeah, it's Zero.
Zero. Oh, how you doing there, Obi, my boy? It's terrible.
My Jabba. What are you talking to Jabba? Huh?
It's terrible. It doesn't.
That's right. He does talk.
It does not work.
Yeah,
it does not work.
No, they keep the movie a dark tone and very serious.
They don't goof around, and the jokes, K2SO,
And that's really it.
So this is, and as we are going to get into, and by the way, I spoke to Andres Cabrera, who is going to join us for our Last Jedi watch along, because I wanted to make sure.
Oh, that's good.
I know you're kind of on the fence about the movie, right?
As a film, it's brilliant.
As a Star Wars movie. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't for those, because there are a lot of people who listen to this show
that love it,
that love the movie.
Yep.
And I don't want it to be one of these things where it's just like, oh, here they are. Now they're just going to take shots at it, because I wouldn't want to listen to that the whole time. So Andres Cabrera loves the movie, right? So we're going to bring him on.
That's awesome. I'm glad we're doing that.
But yeah, but getting, there was a reason I had that point. What were we talking about right before that?
The voices, Jabba.
K2SO is the only.
K2, the humor. The
right.
humor.
So the humor. And I've been very vocal about The Last Jedi. It feels like a Marvel movie sometimes with the humor that they use, and it just doesn't work for me.
For you.
But when it comes to Star Wars humor, the Star Wars humor that I think a lot of the new trilogy, not just Last Jedi, I think a lot of the new trilogy sometimes suffers from let's throw a joke in here that doesn't really work. The Star Wars humor that works to me, thrown into The Mandalorian, that I always reference, is him sitting with the Jawas, and the Jawas are making fun of the way that he talks Jawa, and he tries to light them on fire. Right?
Yeah.
It's like because he was just upset. Han Solo shooting the thing in Episode 4. K2SO set up as a just no nonsense. He's not trying to be funny.
No.
Just the things that he says.
He just says what he's thinking.
He says what he's thinking, and it's funny.
It's brutal honesty, I guess, would be the point of it.
Even though it's one of the most serious movies in Star Wars, some of the best humor in Star Wars is done by K2SO.
Because none of it's forced.
Right.
I love that character.
You believe the character, like, she gets a blaster and I don't?
Yeah.
That's right. But that moment,
he's like, that's some bullshit.
But I'm glad you brought that up, though, because at that moment at the end, it's her giving him a blaster that finally says, like, look,
it's earned.
And he says to her, we're cool. As basically. By them doing, he's like, you always surprise me. And then he's just so loyal. He's always been loyal to it. It's a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah, his death is hard. And it really capitalizes on, like, how did you make us care about a droid so much?
That's right.
Really, really cared when he died.
Yeah, that's right.
But I also think just the Darth Vader scene when he's like, "Don't choke on your ambition." I know
that was the one.
I know
that was the one.
I'm such a fan.
Controversial moment here on.
I know. Here we go. Because I just think if I was that much of a baller gangster, and some of my problem with Darth Vader is when he's like the call boy for Palpatine. And
even Tarkin.
And it doesn't give him
the call boy.
It doesn't give him as much agency as this person should, because it's freaking Darth Vader.
He's a badass in it, but here's the argument that I hear.
But he's a weapon. That's all he is.
But this is why I come back to some people. Where people say, well, Darth Vader had humor in the original trilogy. 100% he did, but he wasn't trying, right? So, for example, apology accepted. It's like
he's not making a joke. That is just
it's funny to us. Because
of the situation.
Because of the situation.
I feel like he would be the type to play with his food. Like, this makes sense.
Play with his food.
And Anakin also. I mean, don't choke in your aspirations. Like it's almost like if they would have cut to Vader walking away, you would have heard him say to himself, "Ah, it was a good one."
Yeah, it's like because I choked him,
totally.
And then I choked the aspirations.
That.
See, I didn't.
That was the one moment. I remember one of my buddies leaned over to me during the movie and goes, "He's making puns now, huh?"
Yeah,
I loved it.
It's like because he does stuff like that in the original trilogy, but not as blatant and obvious and over your head.
Apology accepted, Captain Nita. Don't choke. Two very similar jokes,
right?
But one is like you see what I did there, and the other's like, holy shit, this guy is terrifying.
But even when he says things like, there's things that he says in the original trilogy that are like, because he says the Emperor is not as forgiving as I am, and you're like, you're not forgiving at all.
Altering the deal. Pray don't alter it further. Like, that's terrifying.
But speaking of Vader, by the way, when he mentions to Lando in Empire Strikes Back, he's like, don't make me bring in the garrison. Right?
Yeah.
And then you see the garrison in this. He's like, deploy the garrison. And
yeah.
I'm like, the garrison. The garrison. it was great. But look, before we move on, we have a little bit more to talk about here on Sith Council. I also wanted to remind you guys about Headspace. We've been with Headspace for quite a while now. Excited to be working with them. And if you didn't know what it was, and Steph loves Headspace, and she'll talk about it too. Headspace is your daily dose of mindfulness in the form of guided meditation. An easy-to-use app. Headspace is one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research. And whatever the situation is, Headspace can make you feel so much better. If you're overwhelmed, Headspace has a 3-minute SOS meditation just for you. If you need some help falling asleep, Headspace has wind-down sessions. Their members swear by it. And for parents, I can tell you this, Headspace even has morning meditations that you can do with your kids right before they go to school. Watch how different they act at school when you do this. Headspace approach to mindfulness can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost focus, and it increases your overall sense of well-being. So, Steph, tell me a little bit about Headspace because you've been using it for quite a while.
For years.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way to meditate and to even just learn how to meditate, because I know for a lot of people that's what stops them, is they're like scared or they sit down a few times, it doesn't work. This is the best introduction. I just used it yesterday. I was telling Kristian I had an allergic reaction and I was like, I need to calm down because I'm flipping. And I did the Headspace app and I was like, okay, I'm still a little freaked out but a lot more calm and I'm ready to handle this issue.
Yeah, and it's Steph's been using it for a while. I started using it once we started getting involved, and it's so easy for you guys. You're like, oh man, it'd be great if I just had like a pocket-sized guide that could help me. If it could help me sleep, it could help me focus, help me be better. And there is, and all you need is 10 minutes. Headspace honestly can change your life. It's backed by 25 published studies on its benefits, 600,000 5-star reviews, and over 60 million downloads. I mean, that's massive. Headspace makes it easy for you to build a life-changing meditation practice with mindfulness that works for you on your schedule, anytime, anywhere. You have to. Why? Because you deserve to feel happier. And Headspace is meditation made simple. You got to go to headspace.com/Sith. That's headspace.com/Sith. You get a free 1-month trial. You're listening to this. You've been listening to our rewatches. You've been paying attention to this. You've been having conversations with us. Give it a shot. Free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. It's the best deal that's offered right now, but you got to head to headspace.com/Sith today. Head on over there, guys. You will absolutely love it. I promise. And then please let me know when you tried it, because I know a lot of people are stressed out still, and it's been a tough couple of years. And try it out. Give it a shot. All right, going back on over to this movie and the things like the space battle too. That's one of the things I felt like even the prequels were missing, like a really good. I know people love the beginning of Revenge of the Sith and not the same as what you got in this movie.
No, it was a different feel to it.
Way different feel.
And I couldn't tell you why, but it just feels.
Why you have to give everybody? You got the Empire out there. You got the ships out there.
No, I don't mean it like that. It just seemed like Revenge of the Sith was everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
And this was very, I don't say goal-oriented, like you knew. Like that, Revenge of the Sith, the opening thing, you come in and you're twisting upside down.
Right.
You have no sense of where you are.
Right.
This, you knew.
You got to take the shield out.
In action, when you plan action, you got to lay out the parameters of it. You need to know, the audience needs to know where they are.
Yeah.
You need to establish that. And this established that so good. And
it sets up really well because it also set up the stakes of getting there, right? It's this little band of rogue soldiers that go and do it first, and nobody else wants to help them. And then once the rebels find out that they do, it's not like, oh, we're going to arrest them and put them in, let them fend for themselves. They go, now let's go and help them out.
Let's go.
And let's figure it all out. And they go. And then there's that, you hear Hera's name called in the background, and then you see Chopper fly through at one point, and then there's that's also why I didn't understand. I think every movie except here's a trick. Here's a question for you, Mike.
Oh God, here we go.
Which movie?
Here we go.
Do C-3PO and R2-D2 not show up?
Which movie?
Yeah, not including the animated.
I thought they were in every one of them, but hold on. Together. Appear together.
At all?
No, they're in this. Well, is it this? No, R2. They're in this one because they're in Yavin.
Solo.
Oh, God.
I got that one.
Right.
That's the only one. Yeah, Solo is the only one. And I remember going, they're going to show up. They have to because they're in every movie. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you're going to
How
put...
did I not know that?
I don't know.
Well, now I do.
Better hope it doesn't get asked.
Can you imagine if that get asked now, my 5-pointer, and I went on that one?
Well, there's going to be conspiracy.
Yeah.
Now. If it is, now I can't ask it.
Oh, God. No, you have to.
Called to it.
It's in there.
It's in the document.
It's just the way it goes. It's in the document.
It's true. But they just are kind of thrown into this, but it works. Because
that was to me like what we just talked a little while ago where the droids were overused and we kind of lost. This was one of those like,
but they would be there.
Yeah, they would, but
Better in that moment than sticking them on the ship, because that's where they are. They're on that ship.
Like if they would have walked by during that Vader scene, like, oh, what's going on? Oh God,
that's what I mean. So I actually think it fit well.
Okay, all right.
You know what I mean? Because at one point you would say, well, where were they? They were there.
I just feel the droids, and as much as R2 is as great as he is, it just. Force Awakens really kind of they did him dirty. They did him dirty in those films.
He's like a Roomba at this point.
Yeah, he's like, oh, now you're gonna come alive.
Yeah,
they did him dirty.
He's just plugged into the wall, and they're like, eventually, he just woke up because Luke decided he wasn't.
They did him dirty, and
yeah. But either way, great droid in this one. Great the fights. Oh, and man, I watched the thing on my. This is, you speak about streaming and movies, right? Like in movie theaters. This is a one that you have to see in the theater, like when it came out, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because if it was today, obviously with the streaming, and I talk about how I'm very pro streaming. I'm very pro for families and stuff.
Well, because you have families, I get you.
It's just I can't see everything.
I get
my family can see, but I have decent sized television and surround sound.
Yeah, sound was great.
So when I'm watching it and the AT or the AT-AT comes out, whatever you want to call it, and it shows up and it's Chirrut going, Baze. He's like, what? Run.
Yeah.
It's like, and that sound and it's always felt the AT-ATs when they were in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Always felt like big animals, right? And
like lumbering gorillas.
Even though you knew that there are people in them, you always felt like they were like these big monsters.
Yeah.
And it felt like that again in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. I really feel like I love the fact that from the beginning they were close to death in every single part that they tackled. There was like 5 different things that they had to tackle to get to the end moment where they all actually end up dying. But it was enough of fantasy but realism. Like I feel like they did a really good job of connecting each piece in a way that if you question too much, you're like, oh, I feel like they could have died there. But if you don't and you just like are along on the ride, it all connects well.
They always talk about this, Star Wars in general. Like, and Mike, you mentioned it earlier, right? Like everything needs to, like the best Star Wars, in my opinion, is that if the galaxy felt lived in, right?
Yes.
I don't think there's an argument about this.
No,
movie. Like everything it's right before New Hope, and you feel it. I think it's a perfect lead-in. It made me way more excited to watch Episode 4, even though I was excited already to watch it.
Even like, and I could honestly 100% see some other studio or exec that had control of it doing something different. The Death Star plans, they were the same like dot matrixy 1970s thing, and we don't question it.
Right.
We used to like, why can't we update the graphics and make it digital? And we could be, up in space, hologram, and it's like go back to like Revenge of the Sith with the Pog of the Lesser has that thing, and boom, it pops up like. But no, it kept the simple like stuttery, graphic-y, 8-bit or whatever it was, and it works because we don't question it. We're like, yeah, perfect. That's them.
It was great, and like even the targeting systems of the X-wing.
Yeah.
And I love the way that they blended in the 1977 actors into this because it looked good.
And it worked.
It worked
was
really
quick,
well.
Really did.
Quick.
Yeah.
Their voices, we've watched those movies endless times, so we knew the minute we heard the voice, like, oh, yeah, that's them.
I was bummed Porkins wasn't in it, though.
He wasn't, was he?
No, I don't think he was.
No, it was. I want to say gold. Wasn't it Gold Leader and Red Leader?
Gold Leader and Red Leader.
Yeah, it was gold and red.
Yeah, but I mean, Porkins.
Yeah.
I would like Porkins to show up. Would have been good.
William Hootkins.
That's right. From Batman '89.
And also,
what else?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's
He's the guy that's like Dr. Jones. Yeah. This is the
he brings him to the college. That's right. That's absolutely right.
And he's also. I don't want to give it away. No, I don't know if he's listening to this. I don't want to give it away. He's also in another IG film.
You're giving a lot away.
Yeah.
But all of it, it just I'm trying to think if there's stuff that the scene again. We talk about Mads Mickelson and Felicity Jones and the great acting that they do in the relationship. I believe that they were father and daughter, and when it's pretty heartbreaking when she's there and she's almost reconnecting with her dad.
I know.
Like she's there. She's like I can see him. And then it's not even an Imperial that kills him. It's an X-Wing.
It's X-Wing.
And she's still, if in other characters, she could have decided, well, screw you guys.
Sure.
I'm going to either join them, let this thing blow you all up because I don't care because you just, that anger went away.
Yeah.
And he was.
The Empire's worse.
It was a great moment where he's sitting there dying and she could be like, they just killed him.
Yeah.
And instead, she's like, okay, I'm going to follow on your mission, what you're asking me to do here. And I mean, and it's heartbreaking. He's like, I have so much
to tell you.
And then he dies.
That's one of the worst, best going out lines ever.
Yeah, ever, because it's heartbreaking.
It's so heartbreaking. Like, just thinking about if that was my dad. And I'm like, can you tell me? Can you stay?
Please, don't leave. Like 15 years, I got you in a hologram, and now I got you.
Yeah.
And now you're gone. Like, I had you for that much. And now I don't even have time to grieve, because now I have to go blow up this thing that you want me to blow up.
With people who killed you.
Right.
Accidentally.
Right. Right. So right, exactly. So it's really, there's a lot more layers to it. The movie continuously gets better and better every time. But let's ask that. We've asked the question earlier on, but let's kind of end the show with it, of how we think if the events and the characters and stuff will tie into Andor or any other shows. I mean, you would probably maybe see. I do think that Bail Organa is going to show up in Obi-Wan. Right, I do think that Jimmy Smith will show up, and I don't know if they've announced him or not, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, especially his one line in the film, really, when he calls to Leia and Obi-Wan. It would be a good connecting piece. I mean,
it would. I mean, this takes place years after the Obi-Wan series, but it would establish the connection that they've been in contact, they've been talking. So it would be great to see him. He doesn't have to be hanging out with them and hanging out at cantinas and stuff with them, but the fact that they're still in contact, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah.
So that could connect there. But obviously, the bigger thing, Mike, is Andor. How do you think it'll connect, and how do you hope it connects?
I don't think it's going to connect.
I
think maybe leading into him
we're not getting the rebellion.
We're getting K2 at the end of season 2.
Well, that connects.
So that connects it, but I don't think we're going to wind up I don't think it's going to the way it ends will be him going to meet Tudyk on.
No. I don't think it's
the Ring of Kafrane.
I don't think it'll connect in that way. But more so, what I mean is connecting.
It's him.
That's what
in
I mean.
The rebellion.
So when he mentions I've been in this thing since I was 6.
Yeah.
Connecting it that way by are we going to see him when he's 6? Are we going to see?
I think this will be a new story showing him
like a spy mission.
Yeah, growing into the rebellion. I don't think it's going to tie to. Because they don't know about the Death Star at that point. They don't. Or he doesn't know about that.
No, because
he doesn't.
I think this is going to be character building that's going to enhance Rogue One for him.
Well, yeah. So then it would connect.
Yeah.
But everything connects. It's Star Wars, so it all connects.
Yes, but I mean, into this particular show.
This is a character that's established in Rogue One, so it has to connect.
But what I want to see
by the way of the character,
the connecting. I should more so say not will it connect, as far as more so of how it will connect. And I think that the how it will connect is that when what we cannot see, like the big question and argument that we always have with people for Solo is whether or not you felt that Alden Ehrenreich was Han Solo and other people, he eventually transitioned into that character. What we do know is by the end of this show, Andor has to be a hardened dude who can
he needs to be this the same way, because he's been doing this since he's been 6. So
anger, he
ain't changing in the middle of this. He's not going to have a change of heart and go, I lost the love of my life and now I'm going to suddenly be this hard badass. No, he's grown up in this. This is going to be.
He's grown up in war.
Yeah, he is going to be.
Old.
I think
the
it will
same
take
guy.
time,
I think throughout
though.
the series.
I think we'll see him questioning a lot of the decisions in the beginning, especially.
Maybe it shows him becoming more ruthless. Like, he killed that guy. He's like, we're not going to get it. We'll get out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's what I think.
I think we'll see him become ruthless.
That's what I meant. Yeah. At the end, we know he's got to get more ruthless. But Steph, you're saying?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see a character arc of him becoming the person that we opened up in the scene where he shoots a guy in the back when he didn't need to necessarily and did it anyways. But I think a lot of it will be the moments, like each will probably put him in scenes in every episode that question his conscience and his decisions and his allegiance to the rebellion.
Yeah.
And then I also think that they're going to take the best parts, I believe, of Rogue One and use that same kind of style in this show because it would work, and that's what worked with the movie.
I agree. All right, look, that was Rogue One. We had a great conversation here talking about Rogue One. I had a lot of fun talking about Rogue One and watching Rogue One. We've been doing this rewatch series.
You can tell the energy of our shows when we all love a film.
The movie.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Because it went so fast, too. Like,
I'm very curious now with Andres joining us to see what this Last Jedi panel. I cannot. It's gonna be a good one.
That's why I think it's crucial to have him on here.
Absolutely.
I don't want to just sit here and talk about all the things that we don't.
I could talk about good things in it.
Because I actually do get fascinated when I talk to Ken and I talk to Andres and all because they have and Rachel Cushing, like they have this love for the movie. I don't understand it. But I like to hear it,
right?
And I never would attack them for it.
No.
But to be able to have that conversation with him when we are talking about it, because like I said, I was talking to when I had Griffin Newman on Big Thing, I had a very different relationship with that movie. Like when from the first and second time I saw it,
Last Jedi.
Yes, Rogue One to me is the opposite of Last Jedi. When I first saw Last Jedi, I was confused by it. I didn't know what to. Then I convinced myself the second time I saw it. I'm like, no, this is it's a really good film, and it is a well-made film. It's just not a good Star Wars movie. Coming from me.
Solo.
No, I'm talking about Last Jedi.
Last Jedi. Okay.
So watch, and then every time I watched it with my daughter, I liked it less. I watched it with my wife. I liked it less.
Okay.
I like it less and less every time I watch it.
Yeah.
Rogue One is the opposite.
Yeah.
Rogue One, the first time I saw it, I was like, it was good. I watched it the second time, I'm like, it was really good. And every time I watch it, I'm like I watched.
Yeah.
I was sitting here by myself before you guys came in. I'm like, and I like a geek going, this movie is awesome.
Yeah.
This movie is awesome.
I enjoyed it the first time. I was like, that's really good.
Yeah.
I really liked Force Awakens when I saw it, so I was coming a little bit down with but the more I watched this movie.
Kate Mulligan just worked on the window, and it was really amazing.
I see Rogue One.
So did I. It was Kate's ass.
Yeah. That was the moons.
Yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us here.
Thank you for joining us
today. Really appreciate it. Make sure, if you didn't know already, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, very helpful to the show. We get great sponsors like Headspace because of you guys, but you have to download it. Download the episodes. Even if you are watching on YouTube and you're commenting, please download and follow us on whatever podcast platform that you enjoy your podcast from. Don't forget, check us out in New York. We're going to be there. We'd love to see you. And then next week is episode 4. Very excited to watch New Hope. We're going to be doing that. I mean, Mike's talking about the enthusiasms. We're talking about the enthusiasm of this. I mean, I think you're going to get that for at least the next 3 episodes for sure. After this, it's going to be pretty massive as the OT is coming in hot. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you to Steph Sawbraw. Thank you to Mike Kalinowski.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. We'll see you on the flip side, everybody. Peace out.